Hi, how are you? I'm Will Valley. This is a review for Old Dads, Bill Burr's new stand-up comic routine disguised as a movie. We'll be discussing why this movie is possibly not what you think it is.
The integrity and quality of the Ford name.
Maintenance procedures, safety features.
Flexibility.
The built-in release makes it simple to use.
You'll want to review these from time to time.
After the hood is popped,
If you need to change a tire,
a word of caution.
this rear crosspiece can be adjusted to accommodate different load sizes.
It's messy situations.
See how simple it is?
While we're here,
You'll find in your glove compartments
oil filler tube, things like that.
So essentially, the premise of the movie is Bill Burr and his two friends, Bobby Carnevale and Bokeem Woodbine. They run a company. They make T-shirts, jerseys, this kind of thing. And they essentially sell their company to an up-and-coming sort of startup kid. This is played by Miles Robbins. So he sees himself as sort of a mix of like a Steve Jobs kind of Mark Zuckerberg type. And he has controlling interest in the company. And so essentially whatever he says goes. And it puts Bill Burr, even though him and his friends were the ones who created the company, in this spot of having to answer to Miles. And for the most part, the majority of the movie in the early process, I'd say at least the first half, is a commentary on where the sort of society and the country is going, and the sort of pussification of everyone in the sort of the corporate world, and the sort of helicopter parents, and how it seems to be really detrimental to the society that these guys grew up in. It has very strong Cobra Kai vibes. It's the idea of the old guard kind of getting replaced by the new guard, but the new guard is a bunch of whiny children.
Or at least put a little Neosporin on it or something. That thing could get infected.
Who are you?
I'm Hunter Lewis. I'm Lisa's husband. I just moved in across the street. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah? Are you a doctor? Or you just like one of those WebMD guys?
This is common knowledge. You want to keep the cut clean.
Oh, is it? Well, listen, I'm trying to raise a little man here, not a fucking pussy.
Now, for the most part, there are elements in the first half of the movie that are quite funny. Essentially, the commentary on the younger generation is that they don't judge things with their head too much. It's all very feeling oriented.
What you're feeling now is what you're feeling, okay?
They're obsessed with what everyone thinks about them.
So I appreciate your concern, but why don't you just go back to your hard seltzer? And, go on Twitter and go share this story where you're the hero.
There's a line at some point in this movie where Bill Burr straight up says the problem with the this upcoming generation is they just want to be told what to do. And a lot of this commentary is accurate and dead on, and that's essentially the crux of the film. Right up until it's not. So the problem with the movie is that although it pretends to be this sort of anti-woke commentary, it's really anything but. It masquerades itself as being sort of a counterpoint, but in reality, the biggest issue is at the end of the movie, Bill Burr and his friends relent. They capitulate to the pressure of everyone around them telling them that they need to sort of get with society or they're going to be left behind. So the rest of this movie will be spoiler based. I don't want people to be confused about that. Ostensibly, there are 3 storylines, or at least 3 characters that have their own arcs. So essentially the issue is Bill Burr tells the principal at his kid's school that she's a cunt because he got called out because, he was late picking up his kid. He then has to apologize, not just to the principal, but the entire school. Again, I don't think that, they turn it into some type of struggle session. I mean, is that in reality what is going on in some of these schools? I can't imagine that's the case. But, for the purpose of the commentary of the movie, the idea that people are complaining to him about things that don't make any difference. One guy says, your words were triggering to me because I'm overweight.
As a parent of a child, and someone with chronically low metabolism, but loving my body. Your use of the word stumpy was a real trigger to me and my whole family.
Seriously?
Yes.
As the movie then progresses, we go through different scenarios where Bill Burr is in a situation, and really it's just a vehicle for his stand-up routine.
It's okay, buddy. Say you're sorry. Just asking you to apologize. You don't gotta freak out, everybody. Oh, shit.
The other character is Bobby Cannavale. Now, the issue with Bobby Cannavale is his wife is a total asshole.
Okay, what is going on here? Why is he screaming?
Because he hit Nate with a stick and I told him to apologize.
And she's, one of these parents that lets their kid do anything it wants.
I want my stick!
Come on, bro. Hey.
And this woman also sort of runs the household. Bobby Cannavale is in her pocket in that sense.
I
don't need you to think right now, Connor. You need to respect your son's autonomy.
And Bobby Cannavale lives in complete fear of his wife. He does everything she says. There are scenes of him where he's always relenting to whatever his wife is saying or suggesting or however she's acting. This becomes problematic because the kid in question is beating on Bill Burr's kid, and then Bill Burr's wife wants to, interject, and Bill Burr says, don't do that. But Bill Burr's wife does say something to Cannavale's wife, and they get in an argument, and,
Hey, baby!
Colin! You are not allowed to do that. Do you understand me?
Hey, okay, he's got a little extra energy. That doesn't give you the right to scream at my child.
I was just trying to protect myself.
He's 5 years old, Leah. He doesn't know any better. Don't you think he should?
Then there's the character of Bokeem. Bokeem is very interesting because he is a lawyer. And essentially, he's dating a woman about half his age. Now, the movie starts off where you find out that she's pregnant.
I'm late.
There's no way. It's impossible.
I couldn't believe it either.
And he assumes it's not his because he's had a vasectomy.
I had a vasectomy and I pull out.
He tells her that he wants to see if the baby's his. This is never approached again. He is demonized for even asking the question. It brought up on his end multiple times throughout the movie how he doesn't understand he has a kid, but it's never resolved.
I know. I don't know how it happened, but maybe there's a reason.
And in fact, I almost wonder if the reason it's never resolved is because in the script it was. And then they decided to abandon it because the realization that it probably wasn't his kid didn't make for a good message for the movie. And so there's this slow sort of decline in their character arcs, so that by the end of the movie, they're trying to paint them as these degenerates. At one point, Bill Burr stands up for himself and he calls out the principal, and he does it in a sort of a public way.
You know, Jack, I don't fault you for the way you are. You're just blinded by a lifetime of privilege.
Well, if I was privileged, I don't think I'd spend 2 hours pretending I wanted to talk to you now, would I?
Excuse me?
You heard me.
And I will take that into consideration when I write up Neat's recommendation.
Oh, I bet you will. I bet you will, huh? That's how you operate? Fuck over an innocent child because you're petty bullshit with me?
And Bill Burr's wife gets really upset with him, comes over and argues with him, and then accuses him of having anger issues.
What did you say to her?
Of course. What did I say? What did Jack say? Can you ever be in my corner, Leah? Huh? You know what I said? I just said what everybody here is already thinking, but doesn't have the fucking balls to say.
There is so much in this movie that is a false projection of what's actually happening. Essentially, the movie is telling all men that you are the problem. And it tries to do it in this sort of clever, roundabout kind of comedic way. But by the end of the movie, all of the wives of the main characters get together, and their big realization, the revelation of the movie, is they don't think guys are very deep.
I think when it comes to guys, there's just not a lot of layers.
And that's it. That's it. And essentially, they're just going to go along with it. And then the guys are all in a strip club at this moment and just decide, you know what? We're going to do whatever we can to keep the status quo.
The fear of losing my family is worse than anything I've ever faced before. Maybe Leah's right. Maybe I'm not cut out for this shit.
This whole idea of I'm going to stand up for myself whittles away. They're not willing to argue anymore, just because if they continue to argue, they're going to have no job. They're going to have no place to sleep. They're going to have no wife. They're going to, just everything.
Yeah, hey, hi. Listen, I am so sorry for everything that I said.
At the end of the movie, Bokeem eventually just relents as well. He decides that he's going to marry this woman. He doesn't know if the baby's his. They completely abandon any of that questioning.
My bad.
Get up, Jesus. Get up. Come on. Take a shower, buy a ring, show some effort. At least take me to Tony Roma's or something.
He has virtually no arc. It's actually kind of bizarre that he's even in there, because he doesn't really lend himself to being an interesting or useful character, because he can't get anything done for the progress of the story. They say that he's a lawyer, but you never see him use his lawyer skills, and if anything, it was the fact that he didn't look at a certain clause that got them fired from his job. So, it doesn't really mean anything that he's there, and he's also like oddly disinterested in being there. It's almost like, I don't know if it was the actor or the character, but he has this sort of stoic boredom throughout the entire film. Like he was a parole officer that was assigned to Bill Burr during the filming of the movie, and he wasn't allowed to leave the set. Bobby Cannavale also has this running gag where he's trying to, be down with the black people. He's trying to get, high fives or pounds from them to affirm his status or whatever. He finally does at the end of the movie, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot, and it doesn't change his character at all. If anything, it just comes off really cringy, because it suggests that this is what 50-something-year-old white guys are. They are just guys who are only trying to relate, and it doesn't even make sense because his best friend is black. So why he would try to worry about what a younger generation, specifically a black generation, thinks of him, it doesn't make any sense in any regard in the movie. So there's a moment in the movie where Bruce Dern shows up. Bruce Dern, who is probably got to be in his 80s or 90s at this point, and he's telling what he perceives as his younger generation, which was, Bill Burr and Bobby Cannavale, that the generation below them is the same.
Richie, I'm gonna miss the birth of my kid here.
Oh, who gives a shit, bud? You know where I was? When my rotten kid was born, I was down the street in a bar, having a beer, eating fried clams, because that's the way it went then.
Which would seem like a poignant moment, but it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense within the context of the film, because the points that Bill Burr are making don't really correlate on the same level to the points that Bruce Dern is trying to make. Miles Robbins and Rachel Harris both do great jobs of being the bad guys, so much so that you almost could wish that you could find them alone and just beat the shit out of them, which, is, I think, more commentary on the types of people that they're representing, because there's a lot of people out there that have this mentality, this sort of hive mind mentality, where essentially they're using their position to influence, but ultimately they're egomaniacs. And I think that there are elements like that in this movie that actually work. Unfortunately, none of it really makes a whole lot of sense, and it just kind of comes down to a bunch of guys making sort of fairly obvious commentary as they go on these fetch quests to go from one scene to the next. At the end of the movie, and only because it's a narrative structure, do the bad guys get their comeuppance. So eventually we find out that the principal was embezzling, and we find out that Miles got fired because he misused some terminology, and the Native Americans didn't like it.
Suspended indefinitely, actually.
I think that's millennial for fired.
That's what happened.
The problem with the way that they wrap up the principal character played by Rachel Harris, is it comes out of nowhere. There's no setup for it. There seems to be this idea in the movie that if you just follow the rules, eventually everyone will have what's coming to them come to them. There's a bunch of scenes where Bill Burr is cursing out guys on scooters, and then at the end of the movie, he decides to use that to his advantage so that he can, break some traffic laws. And then he sees a guy on a scooter hit a bunch of garbage cans. I guess that's the joke. The joke is, there's a sort of tear down of society, but, these people at some point will have to pay for that. And that would be fine if they even set that up in just a little way, but they never set that up. There could have very easily been a line where Bill Burr said, I want to get revenge on the principal. And the wife said, don't do that. She'll get hers eventually. But that never happens. And if anything, the wife actually becomes the main villain.
You fucking humiliated me tonight. And you humiliated your son, and I am past arguing about it with you.
What are you saying?
I don't know if I even want to raise my kids with you, okay?
Oh, Jesus. Really?
Yes, really.
You're going to take it to that level?
Yes, I am going to take it to that fucking level, Jack. Kidding me?
Because of that bullshit down there that I told you was going to happen. I told you, and I'm down there dancing like a fucking show pony.
Pack your bag.
She casts him out. She casts him out for essentially sticking up for himself, and for really no reason decides that he can't live at the house anymore and can't be around their son. And it all feels very forced, and like they had to keep things moving because they knew the movie was going to end soon. This is not written well. This is actually quite stupid. And I want to take a moment too to talk about Bill Burr. What's the problem with Bill Burr? Bill Burr used to be the go-to commentary. Him and Louis C.K. were always breaking it down. They were saying the quiet stuff out loud, and that's what made them so great. At some point in the last 5-6 years, it seems to me that Bill Burr is really, really, really worried about getting canceled. Probably because he hasn't been. I mean, that's the best thing about getting canceled. Once you're canceled, you're canceled. You can come back. You can say whatever you want. It's a license to, to open your mouth. And in a way, you can make an argument that getting canceled is the best thing that could happen to someone who has that kind of commentary.
Bill and Bert, he talked about the Gina Carano situation.
No, she was an absolute sweetheart. Unless she did some truly horrible shit. I mean, I don't know what the fuck it is. I mean, I'm on that fucking show. Now I got to watch what the fuck I say.
And if you're smart, you can parlay that into something greater, the same way that Dave Chappelle did, or even Louis C.K. at this point. Bill Burr hasn't been canceled yet, and he's terrified of that happening.
The whole fucking time, there's been fucking assholes on my street walking around, no masks, not quarantining like the people that come by the houses. You see the fucking, the same people that were going in and out of the house who are not part of their family still going in and out of the house.
You want people to walk down the street with a mask on?
Let's not start this, John.
Do you, though?
Let's not start this.
And so he's trying to play this middle-of-the-road comedian where he's saying the quiet stuff out loud, but he's always kind of pulling back.
It's bullshit. I'm not going to sit here with no medical degree, listening to you with no medical degree, with an American flag behind you, smoking a cigar, acting like we know what's up, with an American flag behind you, smoking a cigar, with an American flag behind you.
He's always just going right to the edge. Like, no. It doesn't. I don't really think that. I don't really think it's important to stand up for yourself. I don't think it's, I can make jokes about it, but in the end, I'm not really willing to do anything about it.
He's acting like white people exist on an even plane, which a lot of people try to do. So it's like...
But he's not necessarily. He's just saying that what she's saying is racist and sexist.
Yes.
Because she's determining who she's going to vote for based entirely on the race.
Yes, but there's other elements involved.
That kind of shit drives me crazy, though. What drives me most crazy is this bullying. Like, she's trying to get him fired.
Yeah, well, I mean... I'm trying to have less confrontations.
But I understand.
In my life here.
And maybe the best thing for for him and his career would be to get canceled. So there's an irony to the movie. Old Dads on Rotten Tomatoes is 18% and 90% by audience score, which would suggest that, okay, so, you know, the critics think it's trash, and possibly because of the anti-woke rhetoric. But I think it's a complete dog and pony show. I think the message of the movie is, you're not going to win. Don't worry about standing up for yourself. Capitulate, relent every single time, and don't worry about exposing people as hypocrites, because it's not going to make a difference. The problem with the movie is that it tells you halfway through that it's one thing, and then it does a bait and switch at the last 20 minutes or so. And essentially, the bait and switch is the suggestion that I was wrong all along, and that we need to get with the times if we want to survive. Now, I've heard the argument that that's not the case, but I argue that it is, because in the final moments of the movie, Bill Burr has decided that it's best to just keep his mouth shut and keep his wife happy, irrespective of how ridiculous she is or how insane his life has sort of flipped upside down. And so the movie ends where Bill Burr, he's at the birth of his kid, and they're playing baseball, and a guy on a bike comes up and says, hey, you really shouldn't hold your kid while you're throwing the ball, because, you know, you don't want to have the ball hit the baby. The Bill Burr in the earlier part of the movie would have told the guy to go fuck himself. But instead, he just looks at his wife and then tells the guy, thank you. And then when the guy rides away, he murmurs under his breath that he's an asshole. This is the takeaway from the movie. The movie is saying, don't speak up. Don't say anything. Just survive. And to me, that's the most egregious point that it makes, because it's backdoor woke as a result. It's saying, go along to get along. It's not worth trying. Don't speak up. It's saying, if you have these thoughts, that's fine. Just don't verbalize them, because you're going to lose everything. This is not a movie. This is a threat. So fuck this shit.